G'day guys, today I'm going to show you 3 absolutely savage tricks that you can do with Lord Invocatus in your games of 40k. We're going to start by reviewing his datasheet and talking about the specific utility that he provides to units that he is leading. And then for the first time on this channel, we're going to open Tabletop Simulator and we're going to break out some models and show you the specifics of how to place them to pull off these ripper maneuvers. So with all that being said, let's get stuck into the video.
Exalted.
Alright, first up, let's have a look at Lord Invocatus' datasheet. Now, he's got a 10-inch moves, toughness 6, 3-up save, 8 wounds, leadership 6, and 2 OC. So nothing super impressive there. He's got a 4-up invulnerable save. He's got a bolt pistol, so look out for that. Who cares? His melee weapons are pretty average as well. He's got the bladed horn, so he gets 4 attacks with that at hitting on 3s, strength 6 or strength 8 on the charge with AP 1 and 2 damage. Does have lance, so it's not nothing in combat. And then he gets his Coward's Bane as well, which is his melee weapons, which he gets 7 attacks, he gets 8 on the charge, going in at hitting on 2s, strength 8, AP 2, 2 damage, dev wound. So he hits pretty hard, so he does provide a little bit of utility to Khorne Berserkers or 8-bound when added to them. But the main thing that he adds is his datasheet abilities. Now you'll notice that he's got Leader, Deep Strike, and Scout. It's worth noting that in order for a unit to be able to use either Deep Strike or Scout, every model in the unit must have that ability, right? But he's got a really cool thing here called Fire Riders, where basically, while this model's leading a unit, units in that model have the Deep Strike ability. And each time a unit in that model makes a normal move, advance, or charge move, it can move horizontally through enemy models and terrain features. And while making a normal, advance, or fallback move, models in this unit can move within engagement range of enemy models, but cannot end that move within engagement range of them, and any desperate escape tests are automatically passed. So that's his datasheet ability. Now there's a few really interesting callouts here. One of them is that he gives his unit the Deep Strike ability. So if you attach him to a unit of Khorne Berserkers, you can now Deep Strike your Khorne Berserkers, which means when they come on from reinforcements, they don't have to come on from a table edge. They can come on anywhere on the battlefield, provided they're not within 9 inches of any enemy models, which is really, really important for one of the tricks that we're going to show here. And then also he adds Bloody Stampede, which allows him to basically do impact mortals. It's not a super significant amount though, like, you know, on average you're going to probably do 2 mortal wounds on the way in, which is not nothing, but it's not huge. The main thing that we want to take Lord Invocatus for is this ability here. Being able to move through enemy models is huge, and also being able to Deep Strike is huge. That's 2 massive abilities that you can add to a unit of Khorne Berserkers. G'day guys, check out our merchandise at exalted40k.com, including sets of range rulers with 9, 6, 3, 2 and 1 inch faces, as well as 1 inch markings all the way along, making quick and accurate measurements a breeze. Rectangular blessings trackers for convenient record keeping, and chain axe blessing trackers for when merely taking records is not good enough. Dice and dice trays that in tandem ensure your rolls do not betray you like a certain someone on the killing fields of Scalathrax. Objective markers for an exalted gaming experience that are just begging to be drowned in the blood of friend or foe on the battlefield. Show your support for the channel and head over to exalted40k.com to equip yourself as an exalted wargamer today. Alrighty guys, for this first trick, I want you to imagine that you've got a unit of jackals right here, and they're holding an objective in the center of the board. Maybe in the previous turn they did cleanse, or deploy teleport homers, or something like that, or maybe you're just going to score your primary. And you're versing an Eldar opponent, and he's got this unit of striking scorpions here, which has just moved up and is planning to charge and kill those jackals. Now, as you can see, they're sitting at exactly 6.3 to 7 inches away from, or 6.7 to 7 inches away from those jackals, so they're looking to roll a 6 on their charge, which is pretty reliable. And what we're going to do is we are going to stop them, or disincentivize them, by using rapid ingress. So it's our opponent's turn, they've moved up, and their plan is, in their turn, when they get to their charge phase, they're going to charge these jackals. And what we're basically going to do is we're going to take this big unit of Khorne Berserkers here, and we're going to plop it in here. You'll have to forgive me, I'm no expert when it comes to Tabletop Simulator, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the Khorne Berserkers and we're going to position them 9 inches away. So it's just behind the jackal there is where we want to place them. So you basically take your front guy, and you chuck him in there so that he is 9 inches away. Of course, my computer would start lagging at this point. Oh, there we go. There's a reason that I don't use TTS very often, guys. Let's just confirm that distance. So we're sitting at, yep, just outside of 9 inches. You could probably move a little bit closer than that. I'm not going to move the whole unit. I'll just sort of shove them up in behind there, like so. And you want to string a few around this way as well, and make sure that you stay outside of that 9 inches of that striking scorpion there. So just past the jackals on this side. Maybe we'll throw Invocatus over here. So this is during our opponent's movement phase. He's moved up with the intent of killing those jackals, but we've gone, well, we have deep strikes, so when we rapid ingress these berserkers, we can actually set them up anywhere on the table. They don't have to come on from this table edge or from this table edge. So we've set them up right here, right next to our jackals, and now if that unit of 5 striking scorpions charges those jackals, we'll be able to heroically intervene with this big unit of berserkers, and basically, yeah, they'll fight first, they'll kill the jackals, but then we'll kill them all. And if they go, okay, cool, we'll charge your berserkers instead, well, they're not going to kill 20 Khorne berserkers, they might kill a couple, and then they're going to die in return. So by rapid ingressing this unit down here, we've stopped our opponent from taking our jackals off of that central objective, and at this point, they're probably just going to stay where they are. They're going to leave those striking scorpions there, and they're not going to go for the charge. So it's really important things to note here. One of them is that you want to make sure that when you do this, you get your unit as close to your jackals or your spawn or whatever it is that you're trying to defend as possible. Because when these guys roll their charge, if they roll relatively low for their charge, they can, make sure that they come in and base contact in a way that makes your heroic difficult. If all of these guys were positioned further back, like back down here, they'd be able to go, cool, oh, I rolled really low for my charge, I'm just going to move this one guy in, then these guys are just going to sort of move up behind because they didn't roll high enough to make base contact, and therefore they don't have to. And if you were back here, it might be hard for you to roll that heroic intervention. So you want to make sure that you position your guys as close as possible, and you also want to make sure you're positioning them on both sides. If we had these guys clumped over here as well, they might be able to go onto this side, and if all of these guys were over here, they might be able to go on that side, and then that heroic intervention gets really difficult because your models are there. So you want to make sure that when you do it, you sort of ring the whole way around the unit, like something like so that when your opponent does go for that charge, there's nowhere that they can end their charge move that is not within 6 inches of your unit. And that way, you can really disincentivize them from taking you off that objective. It does cost you 2 command points, this trick, so you want to plan for it, you want to budget for it, or make sure you have a Demon Prince available so that you can discount one of those 2 stratagems, because you're going to want a Rapid Ingress, which costs you 1 CP, and you're going to want to Heroically Intervene, which costs you a 2nd CP. So that's it's quite an expensive trick, but this can absolutely flip games, because now, if your opponent goes, oh no, you've foiled my trick, I was going to go in and kill you, but now I can't. Well, now when it ticks over to your turn, first of all, you've still got those jackals alive, you're going to score that primary, and you've now got your Khorne berserkers in a really, really interesting position where they can move in and they can actually start attacking all of this stuff in your opponent's backfield, because you've been able to rapid ingress them into an interesting position. So that's a really, really cool trick that you can use with your Khorne berserkers, but it requires Lord Invocatus. He unlocks the rapid ingress, which is he unlocks the deep strike. You can still rapid ingress Khorne berserkers, but normally you'd have to do it from a table edge, and that can be quite problematic.
G'day guys, want to join us and become an exalted wargamer? Then check out our Patreon. Show your support for the free YouTube content with a monthly supporter subscription. Think of it like buying me a beer to say thanks, mate. Gain access to the exalted community, including our Discord server where we discuss everything from tactics, strategy, list writing advice to memes, banter, and hobby updates. Join Team Exalted for more direct coaching and advice in preparation for upcoming events, and get tailored advice for key meta environments and matchups. or help working through some of the more challenging and complex aspects of Warhammer 40k, or become part of the Exalted Inner Circle for access to private one-on-one coaching, including video calls and more, a dedicated coaching service aimed to provide mentorship and drive real improvement. Check out exalted40k.com for more information and become an Exalted Wargamer today.
Alrighty, for this next trick, I'm going to show you how to use Lord Invocatus to get around your opponent's fights first abilities. So let's say we're playing this Eldar opponent again. He's got this unit of Banshees here, and they've got fights first, and we really want to kill them. But that can be quite hard with World Eaters, because you charge them, they get to fight first, and they're going to kill you, right? Even a unit of 20 Berserkers is in a lot of strife when it goes into a unit of 10 Howling Banshees led by the Phoenix Lord. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Lord Invocatus and our unit's 6-inch pile and consolidate move to effectively hit those Banshees without them ever being able to allocate. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to utilize this fire prism to make this work. So we're going to take our Khorne Berserkers, it's our movement phase, and we're going to move all of our guys there 8 inches. We're going to move this way. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that when we do move them, we leave some of them back. And this is really important. So moving them there 8 inches. You'll have to forgive me. As I said earlier, I'm no master of TTS. And my computer's also rubbish, so it gets a bit laggy at times. But basically, we're going to move up like so, but we're going to take some of these guys, and we're not going to move them their full distance, because we don't necessarily want everybody to get near that fire prism. So we're going to string out like so, and then these guys at the back, we're more or less just going to leave them where they are. We're more or less happy with that. So something like so. Then we go into our charge phase, and we're going to roll our charge into that fire prism. And now let's see how far away are we. We're currently sitting at 8.3 inches away. So let's say we roll a standard sort of like a 9-inch charge with these guys. So we're going to now be able to move each one of these guys up to 9 inches. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is move one guy in to base contact with that fire prism. So now we have successfully completed our charge. Now everybody else, the rules here are that they can move 9 inches. They have to end that move closer to that fire prism, and if they can end in base contact with the fire prism, they must, provided that that move doesn't break coherency. So this guy back here has absolutely no chance of ending within base contact of that fire prism that's 26 inches away, right? So he can basically move any direction, provided his move ends closer to that fire prism. Now, importantly, what we want to do is we want to remain outside of 6 inches of these Banshees, because we don't want them to heroically intervene into us. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure out 6 inches, which is to roughly there, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to move these Khorne Berserkers up to their 9 inches, ending closer to the fire prism, but remaining outside of that 6 inches, right? So that's the plan. So he's going to move somewhere like that, he's going to move somewhere like that, so on and so forth. Move a couple guys in like that. As long as they all end outside of 6, so he needs to scooch back a little bit. Something like so. He can go like that. He can go like that. He can go like that. And then basically these guys have now all completed their move. Then you can basically take these guys, any of them that can end within base contact must, provided they don't break coherency. So you need to leave enough guys left to keep that coherency. So we're going to move, say, Invocatus there. We'll move one guy like that, one guy like that. You're going to end up with a bit of a daisy chain. Something like this is probably what you're going to end up with, right? Now, that's so that you've got all these guys maintaining that coherency. You've already moved these guys their distance, so now you've successfully completed the charge. Now, you want to also make sure you don't go within 6 inches of these scorpions, because that could be a problem. So we're just going to take these two guys back here and move them a little bit further than we initially did. Maybe this guy as well. Just so that we're not within 6 inches of those scorpions. Perfect. So not within 6 of the scorpions, not within 6 of the banshees, and we've completed our charge. Now, at the end of the charge phase, your opponent has an opportunity to heroically intervene. However, they're not within 6 inches, so they're not eligible to heroically intervene. And I highly doubt he wants to heroically intervene a wave serpent into your berserkers. So now there's no heroic interventions. Now we go into the fight phase. Now the important thing to note here is that when you go into the fight phase, you activate units one at a time. When you activate a unit to fight, it gets to pile in, make attacks, and then consolidate before any other units get to activate. So that all of that activation, the piling in, the making attacks, and the consolidating, is what is called fighting, right? So basically, at the moment, there's only one combat taking place, which is the Khorne Berserkers and that Fire Prism. So because we charged, we have fights first on our Khorne Berserkers, and because we're the only unit with fights first in this example, we get to activate first. So we're going to select this Khorne Berserker unit to fight, and now what we're going to do is we're going to pile in these guys their 6 inches, which means this Khorne Berserker can go his 6 inches and end within engagement range of these Howling Banshees. Next guy moves his 6 inches, so on and so forth, right? Ending within engagement range, ending within base contact of a guy who's within base contact, so on and so forth, right? So you're just going to move them all. I'm being a bit sloppy here, but you throw them in roughly there. Oh, that guy done a somersault. You move them all like so. And provided that you stayed exactly 6 inches away, you're not within 6, and therefore they can't heroically intervene, but because with a 6-inch pile-in and a 1-inch engagement range, you can get all of those guys that were along that 6-inch line in engagement range, they can now fight. So you basically pile those in, they can make their attacks. Those Berserkers you're going to get probably, depending on how you do it, you can get a ton, because if you basically went top down and you measured 6 inches from that Banshee to there, and you set up those Berserkers in a straight line along there, you'd be able to get that entire line of Khorne Berserkers in. So to be a little bit more precise, because why not? We're using TTS, we can afford to be. If you had, with your charge move, ended your models in a line like so. Oh, that guy's done a flip. If you'd ended your charge move something like this, where you are outside of 6, basically outside of 6 but within 7 is what you want. So he wants to move forward a bit. Oh, he's actually probably... Yeah, he's outside of 6 within 7. So if you're outside of 6 but within 7, that means that when you make your 6-inch move forward, you're going to, all of those guys with their 6-inch pile-in are going to end within 1 inch of those Banshees. And now all of those guys are going to get to fight. And they're all going to get to make their attacks, I should say. So they pile in, now they all make their attacks, they kill all those Banshees, then they get to do their consolidate move, which is another 6 inches. So say all those Banshees are gone now, they're dead. And you've probably done the same thing into some of these striking Scorpions as well, so they're probably dead as well. Because 20 Khorne Berserkers will kill a hell of a ton of Eldar, I'll give you that. So they're gone as well. And now you get to make another 6-inch move, which is your consolidate move. You've probably got enough guys to do some serious damage into that Fire Prism, but not enough to kill them, which is fine because our objective was never to kill that Fire Prism. It was to kill those Banshees without them being able to fight. Now, the most common misconception with this is the terminology. When people hear the word fight, they think it means making attacks. But a fight is specifically the pile-in, the making attacks, and the consolidate. And that sequence can't be interrupted. The only way to interrupt that, or the only way to interrupt a combat, is to wait for your opponent to complete that sequence, and then before they activate their next unit, you can interrupt with various mechanisms, such as, what's it called? Counter-offensive, the stratagem that allows you to interrupt the sequence. There's a few ways that you can do that, but basically, in this instance, at the start of the fight phase, right, which is immediately after the charge phase, the only units that were within engagement range of each other were the Khorne Berserkers and the Fire Prism. So they were the only units that were eligible to fight. The Banshees were not eligible to fight, neither were the Striking Scorpions, and because they weren't within 6 inches, they weren't eligible to heroically intervene, so they had to sit there. And then when you go into the fight phase, you select the first eligible unit, and then that unit can fight, which includes piling in, making attacks, consolidating. And then your opponent can pick one of their units. So if we had piled into these Banshees and failed to kill them, then your opponent would be able to attack with the Banshees, but they don't get to make their attacks until you've finished the fight process and you go on to selecting the next unit. And at that point, they would get to activate. So this is a really neat way that you can use the 6-inch heroic the 6-inch pylon in engagement to get around the Howling Banshees fights first. Now, the reason that the 6-inch pylon in Consolidate is so critical to this is because if you only had a 3-inch pylon in Consolidate, like most things in the game, if you charged this Fire Prism, you would have had to have ended that charge just outside of 3 inches of the Howling Banshees in order to be able to pile into them and make your attacks. And the problem with that is if you've ended within 3 inches, they can heroically intervene very easily. And if they had heroically intervened in the charge phase, right? So it's gone charge phase, they've gone, yep, cool, I'm going to heroically intervene. Now when at the start of the fight phase, they're within engagement range of you, and you're within engagement range of the Fire Prism. So all 3 of these units are now eligible to fight. And because they have fights first, they will get to select their unit to make its pile-ins, make attacks, consolidates, before you get to select your unit. And therefore, they'll kill you. So if you only have a 3-inch pile-in and consolidate, this trick doesn't work because your opponent can heroically intervene. And the 6-inch pile-in and consolidate is really what unlocks that. There are a few other tricks that you can do that are sort of unrelated, but I'll tell them anyway, which is that if you wanted to, if you only had the 3-inch pile-in and consolidate, you could charge something like a unit of Jackals into the Banshees first, then charge your big Berserker unit into the Fire Prism, and now because the Banshee unit is within engagement range, it can't heroically intervene, and now they'll get to select to fight first. They're going to kill those Jackals, but then you can pile in your 3 inches with your Khorne Berserkers and make your attacks and kill the Banshees. So you can use a sacrificial unit to prevent the heroic intervention, which then allows you to pull off this trick if you don't have a 6-inch pile and consolidate. But one of the beautiful things about World Eaters is we can get the 6-inch pile and consolidate army-wide very easily. And as a result, you don't require that sacrificial unit, and you can just rapid ingress your Lord Invocatus Berserker unit. Then when you move out, you move in such a way that you don't get everybody within base contact of the target of your charge. Like if we had to put all of these Khorne Berserkers like in a clump over here somewhere and then rolled our charge, we would probably end up having to put all of those Khorne Berserkers wrapped all the way around this Fire Prism like so, right? Because we were so close. And if you do that, you're not going to be able to get enough guys close to these Banshees so that you can 6-inch consolidate and pile into them. So one of the important factors is you rapid ingress the unit in here, and then when you're moving them, you want to move some of them away from the target so that when you then make your charge move, you can't end within base contact, which then means you're free to move closer to the target, but staying 6 inches away from those Banshees. And now, when you do your pile-ins, you can then pile into the Banshees. It's a relatively complex trick, this one. It does take some getting used to. So hopefully I've done a good job of explaining it here, and hopefully the Tabletop Simulator has helped, with the precision of it. But yeah, that's one of the ways that you can use Lord Invocatus and 20 Khorne Berserkers to work around your opponent's fights first abilities.
G'day guys, let's take a second to thank today's sponsor Adept Roll, a bloody ripper app that calculates expected outcomes across a variety of in-game scenarios with precision. With Adept Roll, you can input or import unit profiles to calculate probabilities of outcomes and apply modifiers both offensively and defensively within seconds, allowing you to make wiser and more informed decisions when writing lists and when making in-game decisions. Adept Roll is free to use, or grab the paid version, which is an inexpensive and packed full of fair dinkum features that will help you play like an exalted wargamer today. Thanks again to Adept Roll for sponsoring the video, and now let's get back to the show.
Alrighty, for this last trick, we're going to use one of the Lord Invocatus' unique datasheet abilities to get around a problem that World Eaters players absolutely hate, and that is move blocking. So let's say we've had our turn, we've moved our big unit of Khorne Berserkers up here that's got Lord Invocatus attached to it, and we've killed something off the middle, and next turn we're planning to go in and pop those tanks. We really want to kill those transports. And our opponent's got this unit of Banshees, and what they're going to do is, just to be a pain in our ass, they are going to position them something like so, where they're basically going to create a big screen in front of us, where the distance between their bases is smaller than our base, so we can't slide through, and we are going to have to go around. Now, this is something that really, really hurts, and if you've got like a unit of Khorne Berserkers with a Master of Executions or something like that, this is really going to be effective at shutting you down, right? So they're going to move their unit something like this, creating a nice big line, and now they're not going to charge us because they know, like, let's say hypothetically we've got fights on death active. They know if they charge us, yes, they're going to kill a lot of us, but they're going to die in return, and they want to prolong the game. They want to keep those pieces available. So they're just going to move something like that, and then they're going to do a bunch of other stuff around the table, and they know that by moving there, they have shut down your movement. However, because we have Lord Invocatus in our unit, we can actually move through enemy models as if they're not there, which means that this Khorne Berserker can move his 8 inches like so, ending on the other side of these Banshees, right? Now, it's a little bit harder when you've got a big unit, because obviously there's a lot less space, and you can't end the move within 1 inch of your opponent. But let's say we've also thrown an advance on there, so instead of an 8-inch move, we've got, say, a 10 or an 11-inch move, so we can move an extra, 3 inches off each one of these guys. So something like so. And if we're like, cool, we got an 11-inch move off of all of these guys, so this guy's coming 11 inches. This guy's going his 11 inches. Something like so. Moving the maximum distance to make sure that we can fit all of the guys in behind them. Invocatus moving his 11 inches. And you end up with a move something like so. Move straight over them. Everybody's moved their 11 inches. We haven't ended within 1 inch, so we're not within engagement range. And now we're free to charge these vehicles and go in. And provided we're smart and we end that move further than 6 inches away from those Howling Banshees, they're not going to be able to heroically intervene into us. And we're now going to be able to basically run straight through your opponent's army. And that is so insanely powerful, especially in matchups where your opponent doesn't have any good combat, but they've got lots of shooting and lots of screens, and it can be really, really hard. Like, they throw out some guardsmen, you can't charge through the guardsmen and hit the tanks, which means if you just charge the guardsmen and kill them, you're out in the open, and then next turn the tanks just line up and shoot you. It can be really, really painful. But in this instance, they've got this fights first unit, so even then, charging that unit's not really an option, because if you just charge that unit, it's going to fight first and kill you. So being able to jump over it, charge the fire prisms, is really, really good. Because that Lord Invocatus allows you to move over these Banshees. Whereas normally speaking, you can't move over enemy models, with the only exception being in the charge phase. You can charge and you can end within engagement range, but you can't charge through enemy models and you can't move through enemy models. So being able to put out a screen like that will shut down almost every unit in the World Eater's arsenal, but it will not shut down Lord Invocatus, because he has that Fire Rider's ability, which allows them to just move straight over the top. So that is my top 3 tricks for Lord Invocatus. Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed that video of my top 3 tricks for Lord Invocatus. Let me know what you guys think of the tabletop simulator. This is something that I'm exploring. I do like getting the models out on the tables here in the studio, but I thought this could be a little bit of an interesting way to do it, a little bit more precise, a little bit cleaner, and it also allows me to access models for demonstrations such as Howling Banshees and the Eldar, which I don't have here in the studio. So there's a few reasons why I wanted to go with this, and I wanted to try it out and see what you guys think, and whether or not you prefer this or getting the models out and physically doing it on the table, which is a little bit more realistic, but a little bit less precise, and also a little bit more restricted. So there's pros and cons to both, but let's have that conversation in the comment section below and let me know what you think. And like I said several times in this video, I'm no expert at Tabletop Simulator, so it took me a couple of hours just to get this scenario set up so that I could actually demonstrate this. and the controls and the navigation and all that sort of stuff I'm quite rusty with. So yeah, it took me a little bit to figure out. So I'm sure if I continue down this path, I'll learn more and I will get much better at using the tabletop simulator. But I will only do that if you guys think it's a good idea. If you guys enjoy it, then let's go. If you guys prefer getting the models out on the table, I'm totally fine with that as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And as always, if you want to show your support for this channel and you appreciate the work that I do, head over to www.exalted40k.com. You can pick up some sweet merchandise there, and all those sales I get a little bit of profit from, which I can then cycle back into improving the channel. One of the things I'm desperately looking to do is replace this 20-year-old laptop with something a little bit more modern that can run things like Tabletop Simulator without crashing every 5 minutes. That would be fantastic, and also would be able to set up more camera rigs so that I can do a little bit more interesting stuff when it comes to videos for you guys. So if you want to show your support and help me achieve that goal, heading over to exalted40k.com and picking up some merchandise is the best way to do it. Or joining our Patreon, you can find all that information on exalted40k.com as well. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.